What's up, Manna fam? Yesterday we had the opportunity to hear about the genesis of the Fort Leonard Wood Church when it was just two people stepping forward in faith. Today we get to look at the next evolution of that church as a city site in a small town. You know, often God calls us to things that may seem improbable or even impossible. For instance, planning along the military highway at 273 locations sounds like one of those things that could be impossible. But when we read verses like Isaiah 58:11, the front end of which is on this mug, which says, "I will always show you where to go. I'll give you a full life in the emptiest of places, firm muscles, strong bones. You'll be like a well-watered garden, a gurgling spring that never runs dry." You see, God's always going to provide for whatever He's called us into. Now let's look at a story of how God continues to guide and provide in the midst of a seemingly improbable situation.
Hey, what's going on? My name's Nick, and earlier this year, I got to lead a team of college interns to Manna Church, Fort Leonard Wood. And I got to tell you, we did all sorts of things. We got to serve in some outreaches. We got to sit down with Pastor Elliot Diaz and do some mentoring with him. And then on Sunday, we got to serve at their services right there at Manna Church, Fort Leonard Wood. And I got to tell you, we were blown away by the explosive growth and the momentum that we saw, especially in such a short amount of time. Keep in mind, last month, they just celebrated their 1-year anniversary as a city site. And so we're excited for them, but I mean, so much has happened in that 1 year. They've experienced 70 baptisms in 1 year, 310 salvations, and countless stories of life change that have happened. And again, it's just mind-blowing to see all that God is doing right there. They're still considered a new church plant, but they're averaging over 600 people every week. That's their average. And what blows me away is the context of where they're located. They're not in some big metropolitan area. It's not a big city. It's a very small rural town. I mean, if you've been to Fort Leonard Wood before, you know the nickname is Fort Lost in the Woods. They call it that for a reason. And so if you combine the population of Waynesville and Fort Leonard Wood and the surrounding area, there's maybe 25,000 who live in the area. So not a whole lot of people. On top of that, you've got a huge military population, and Fort Leonard Wood is a training base. So you've got people who are stationed there for maybe a year, sometimes less. And so the turnover rate is so high in their area that almost a third of the population will turn over in less than 3 years. So just think, from a church planting perspective, that is a nightmare. How do you appeal to a demographic who's going to be gone in a couple of months? How do you get them to come to church? How do you get them to plug in and get discipled and jump into small groups and relationships and growth track? How do you get them to do anything? But the crazy part is that's exactly what's happening. They're doing it anyway. It's already happening. Despite the odds, God is moving. People are hungry for the gospel. They're coming to church. Their lives are being changed. They're jumping into small groups, getting discipled. They're going through our growth track, and we're sending them out along the military highway. Over the last year, this new church plant has already sent out almost 100 families along the military highway to another Manna Church somewhere across the country. Isn't that amazing? God is moving. His hand of favor and blessing is upon Manna Church, Fort Leonard Wood.